U.S. sanctions become dictatorship. Netherlands announces lifting of all sanctions against Russia. As countries around the world see the light, as the U.S. hegemonic alliance is disintegrating, the Netherlands has announced the lifting of all sanctions against Russia, and cracks are beginning to appear in the Western anti-Russian coalition. This move by the Netherlands has far-reaching implications, knowing that the Netherlands is not only a member of the European Union but also a member of NATO. The Netherlands, Hungary, and Turkey are three countries in the U.S. hegemonic alliance, especially the Netherlands, which is a traditional European power, although it is now in decline, but this fully reflects the attitude of European countries on the issue of sanctions against Russia. This is like dominoes pushed to the same, the momentum behind the immeasurable development. The United States is no longer a call to the times. On October 26, the Netherlands has applied to the EU to lift sanctions on Russia's oil and gas. The Dutch argument is currently unable to find an energy alternative, hoping that the EU exempted the Netherlands from sanctions on Russia until 2023. Europe's winter has arrived. If there is no energy, how will people spend the winter? I believe that the follow-up will be more countries because of energy problems refuse to sanction Russia, and other countries in Europe should learn from the Netherlands. Do not hurt the hearts of their own nationals to maintain the face of others. Or survival is important. If the people through this cold winter is the most important top priority, lifting sanctions against Russia is the first step. Should also apologize to Russia and ask for Russia's understanding. Finally, a country in Europe has lowered its high head. It is more important to be alive than anything else. It is only when it has been frozen that it knows the importance of energy. It is only when it has endured the cold that it knows the happiness of warmth. I believe that the behavior of the Netherlands is not the last, but the beginning, and more countries will follow suit. The leaders of the Netherlands still turn fast. The Dutch people are blessed. The Netherlands withdrew from the sanctions against Russia. I hope it can cause European countries to pay attention to the early exit from the sanctions wave. The future will be more countries to learn from the Netherlands. The EU will completely lose prestige in this winter. The EU organization will be disgraced. This time, Europe, in order to weaken Russia, it can be described as a means of frequent. But Putin is not a soft persimmon, the face of Europe's drive to kill. Putin also directly backed to a hard shot. 2 days ago, Gazprom released a message that the Nord Stream 1 pipeline will completely stop delivering natural gas, and this time the closure is indefinite. I have to say, Russia is simply to send Europe to the end of the road this time. Europe is now suffering from a serious energy crisis, and after Nord Stream 1 is completely cut off, energy prices will rise again. This is a huge blow to the people and industry in Europe. I think the European economy to fall into recession. But Europe is now also considered the government made out of their own. If you do not follow the United States, it will not end up in the current situation. And in the face of such a situation, the European public is finally unable to resist. It is reported that 2 days ago, in the Czech capital, about 70,000 people held a demonstration. The main content of the march was a protest against the increase in energy prices, as well as the Czech government's constant following of the United States and assistance to Ukraine. After all, the Czech Republic was able to give Ukraine a lot of military aid, but gave the people only 2 sweaters. It can be said that now the Czechs are not much better off than the Ukrainians. Many people of the population believe that the United States is actually digging a hole for Europe by asking Europe to impose sanctions on Russian energy. This is only convenient for the United States to suck the blood of Europe. After all, the U.S. is now constantly selling high prices of natural gas to Europe for profiteering. But the government, in order to please the U.S., still insists on ignoring the interests of the people, which does not make the Czechs angry. The 70,000 people in the Czech Republic are not a small number, and it is clear that the majority of the population is now anti-American. The government will have to consider the next step, and once the Czechs are really pushed, I'm afraid the Czech Prime Minister will be forced to step down and take Johnson's old path. The company's main goal is to provide a solution to the problem. Germany has also held several marches, and just a few days ago, in Cologne, Germany, thousands of people also held a demonstration. Protest against the German government's continuous sanctions against Russia, resulting in higher energy prices, so that people's lives are greatly affected. It can be said that as long as the energy problem is not solved, the contradictions in Europe will grow bigger and bigger. When the time comes, Europe will be in complete chaos. But even then, the US can't do much good. After all, the evil that Europe is suffering now, and the United States cannot be unrelated. And under the continuous death of the United States, there are now a number of European countries to join the wave of anti-American set off by Russia. Europe and Russia are interdependent relations. Russia's rich natural resources are many European countries rely on. After the launch of sanctions against Russia, the trade in natural resources between Russia and Europe was hit hard. Many countries in Europe are caught in the situation of soaring costs of living. Germany is the most typical representative. News pointed out that because of the sanctions against Russia, Germany is facing the plight of energy shortage. In order to reduce energy consumption, Germany's Federal Deputy Chancellor and Economy Minister Robert Habeck said in an interview that he hopes people will reduce the number of heating, sauna, and bathing. In particular, he mentioned that when bathing do not flush the whole body, focus on cleaning 4 parts can be. These sacrifices not only make the Russian government's life more difficult, but also improve the skin microbiota. However, it is clear that the German people do not eat this, and pro-Russian marches have broken out in their country, and there are even polls that show that more Germans want former Chancellor Angela Merkel back in charge. In such a general environment, the German people's attitude toward NATO is also becoming bad. In fact, in addition to Germany, there is a domestic voice and NATO, this time even to withdraw from NATO. The French far-right party National Alliance presidential candidate Le Pen 13 said support NATO and Russia to establish closer relations. The soaring cost of living, the lack of energy supply, these problems already make the German people quite unhappy. Under this, German politicians and media also called for a reduction in the frequency of bathing, and put forward a variety of outrageous demands, which also makes the German people's emotions become more intense. The news said that the German people who were dissatisfied with the government held a protest demonstration. They screamed to support Russia, to let Merkel return to politics and reappear, and it's even said that Germany should set aside its relationship with the United States and NATO, and should not continue to launch sanctions against Russia. The report stressed that, in fact, in addition to Germany's current dissatisfaction with the United States and NATO, there are also many politicians in France have dissatisfaction with it. The news reveals that recently French presidential candidate Le Pen openly said that if he could be elected president of France, then he would let France withdraw from NATO military integration agencies. In addition, it also said that France refuses to follow the U.S. Biden administration, will be elected to abide by the 3 diplomatic principles of independence, intermediate, and stability, to facilitate the reconciliation of NATO and Russia. It also advocates against sanctions on Russian energy and maintaining relations with Russia. All in all, there seems to be a growing number of signs at the moment that indicate to people that more and more negative effects are backfiring on the US and the West as they frantically target Russia.